Familiar, Book 10, Indelible Chapter 2. Sonic took Emmy's hand as the wind brushed through their fur, the bronze portal opening up before them. Knuckles hadn't emerged from his room that morning, but Emmy had left him breakfast in the microwave once more, and Sonic had slipped a note under his door to ensure he found it. He followed at the end of the line, keeping his grip tight on Emmy's hand so the portal wouldn't close before they were all through. Wind whipped at his jacket as they entered the new world, the portal closing swiftly behind them. The soft, metallic clinking of rings filled Sonic's ears alongside the murmuring of hundreds of creatures. Portals opened up in the sky, depositing thousands more rings onto the world in towering piles.
Okay,
Tails said, drawing their attention to where he stood in front of them.
I think going to the station would be our best bet. We can talk to more officers there and hopefully find out some information. You brought the list, right?
Sonic nodded, pulling out the folded piece of paper Knuckles had written with him the night before.
Sweet, the station should be just over here.
Tails gestured to their left through a maze of mountains. Emmy shot Sonic a look, not usually one to join them in this world. She preferred to stay on their island and tend to the orchard.
Lead the way,
she said with a grin.
We should keep a low profile.
Sonic recommended as they slipped between two groups scoring through a pile. Emmy turned to him curiously.
Why?
If movies on Earth have taught me anything, it's that people as powerful as that have henchmen.
Emmy snorted, rolling her eyes disbelievingly.
Sonic, they acted alone, correct?
Sonic pursed his lips, stepping over a discarded pile of bronze rings.
Well, yes, but they could have gathered a following by now.
I doubt it somehow. People who work alone tend to prefer it that way, and it didn't seem like they would need any help.
Sonic nodded slowly, shooting a wary glance at a band of mangy rats digging through bronze rings in search of silver ones, as though the mysterious figure would step out between the group. Emmy followed his gaze, taking his hand gently.
Look, if you're worried, we'll keep an eye out and only mention it to officers. Would that help?
Sonic sighed in relief.
Definitely thanks, Emmy.
She grinned, squeezing his hand reassuringly before letting go.
Of course, come on! We're losing Tails.
They rushed to catch up with Tails before he disappeared around another corner. Sonic crashed into Tails' back as he rounded the corner, cushioned by his two tails as they swirled in thought and forcing his friend to stumble forward. He brushed the fur away from his face, swallowing back a sneeze.
Sorry, Tails.
Tails waved him off.
It's fine, it's happened before.
He added with a chuckle. He turned, gesturing widely.
This is the station.
Sonic's eyes widened in awe at the immense building that stood before them. Clean, whitewashed walls wrapped around the building, free of any graffiti he would see tainting those on Earth. Their gleam left streaks across his vision, as though the wood had been freshly polished, and they rose 3 stories high, forcing him to crane his neck back to take it all in. Windows covered every surface, not a blinding white, glimmering in the sunlight and leaving him swooning. Beds of flowers spilled out from the front, framing the steps and small veranda out front of the building. Hydrangeas and hibiscus flowers sparkled, freshly watered and dancing in the light breeze, their colors vibrant reds and blues. Officers chatted atop the veranda, sitting at tables as they relaxed on their breaks or powered through paperwork.
It's nice.
Sonic hummed. It seemed so much more welcoming than the ones he had seen in movies and on Earth.
They try to make it as approachable as possible. Ensures people feel more comfortable when they ask for help.
Sonic nodded. Already, any nerves he had felt at visiting the station were beginning to dissipate, making way for determination. They could speak with officers without any worry of the figure lurking. Sonic had no doubt they would be uncomfortable entering such a pleasant area, especially if they had a record for tyranny. He wondered if anyone else had lost memories because of them. They ascended the steps, returning waves from the officers as they passed by. Tails had to refuse an offer of tea from an elderly bear, his fur streaked with gray but his eyes as soothing as honey. He apologized profusely, promising to They stepped inside, warmth pouring over them from heaters above and soothing any lingering trembles that ailed them. A soft, golden glow drifting down from the lights left the area sparkling and radiant, removing any lingering worries Sonic had. Desks were spread out along the walls, dividers separating each to ensure conversations remained private. The area was packed, people of all kinds bustling about as they performed their duties or spoke with officers.
We should be able to find someone soon.
Tails said.
We'll just need to wait over here.
He led them over to a waiting area, added seats provided for them. Sonic had only just sat down on the yellow chair when an officer approached them, a middle-aged mouse, her fur streaked with golden highlights sparkling between the brown. Her eyes softened, gentle crinkles appearing at their edges as she smiled at them.
Hey, kids, do you guys need help?
Sonic's muscles relaxed as her soothing voice rolled over them, soft and warm in a way a mother would speak to her child. He found himself nodding along with the others, Tails stepping forward to take control once more.
Dolly.
He greeted her, an easy smile spreading across his lips.
We're trying to find someone. Would you be able to help?
Dahlia bobbed her head in assent, her floppy ears bouncing at the movement. She reached down to ruffle Tails' hair with a cheeky grin. Tails groaned, swatting her hands away with a pout, yearning a laugh from her.
Of course, it is part of my job. After all, if you'd follow me to my desk, I'm sure we can find this person for you.
She led the way, easily ducking between other patrons and officers and sliding into her seat. Her window offered a wide view of the ring world, along with a faint green from the forest far beyond, pine trees rising high into the sky.
All right, have you got a name?
She asked, turning away from her computer to peer up at them. Tails pursed his lips, shaking his head.
We don't have a name, but we know what they look like. Well, sort of.
He gestured for Sonic to pass over the paper. Sonic jumped into action, pulling it from his pocket and placing it into Dahlia's waiting paw. She hummed and thought as her eyes skimmed the words. Her face paled slightly the longer she read, eyes widening.
How do you know of this individual?
They shared a look before Sonic nodded.
They took something from us.
Amy said, eyes flitting about Whirly, as though the figure would be lurking nearby. Dahlia pursed her lips, nose twitching.
They've taken a lot from plenty of people. Why are you searching for them?
We need to get this back. It's important.
Dahlia tutted, looking away in thought before she nodded to herself, plucking a pen from the cup on her desk.
All right, well, this is where I last heard they were. But be careful, Silas is quite the character, or so I've heard.
She shook her head disdainfully, offering back the paper to Sonic, her writing filling up the bottom corner in neat loops. Sonic shivered at the name, Silas. He finally had a name to put to the haunting face. He committed it to memory, shooting her an appreciative grin before they were rushed out, another patron taking their place quickly.
Silas.
Amy murmured, crossing her arms to hug herself as the cool breeze assaulted their skin. The warmth from inside rushed away the moment the doors clicked shut behind them. Sonic found himself shivering for an entirely different reason. Tails plucked the note from between his fingers, reading what Dolly had written down for them.
The houses.
He murmured to himself, looking up to the sky as he thought.
I haven't been there since.
He shook his head.
Years it feels. They were only here a couple days ago. So if we head out tomorrow, we should be able to find more information on them. Or even catch them.
Sonic nodded, excitement mingling with dread and leaving his stomach twisting and fluttering. Hands clamped down on Tails' shoulders, and he let out a yelp. Sonic and Amy jumping back with wide eyes.
There's my favorite fox. How are you on?
Tails whipped around, a wide grin on his face when he saw Fern standing behind him. He wrapped his arms around her in a second, his tail swishing about excitedly. Fern returned the gesture easily, squeezing him tightly. Tails stepped back after a moment.
I'm great. We were just visiting, getting more rings and all that. No.
Fern nodded understandingly.
Of course. You sure you didn't just come to visit me? It wouldn't be the first time.
Her eyes lit up with mirth, bright and teasing. Tails snorted, his cheeks turning a faint pink as he looked away from her gaze.
Well, maybe.
Amy tilted her head in confusion, sharing a look with Sonic before she stepped up, attracting Fern's attention.
Actually, we were.
She trailed off when she caught Tails' eyes, the fox shaking his head quickly.
We were coming to visit.
She finished, a smile on her face even if confusion lingered in her eyes.
Tails just won't say it.
She smirked when Tails shot her a glare. Fern grinned.
Well, I'm glad. It's been a while since I've seen you here. Missy, where's your other friend, the red one?
Amy's lips thinned, and she looked away quickly.
He's sick at home?
Sonic cut in when Fern frowned. Her eyes widened.
Is he okay?
Sonic nodded.
He's fine, just a cold.
Fern hummed, her ears flicking slightly to the left. She shot a glance over to the piles, narrowing her eyes suspiciously.
I'm keeping you to that. Now, if you'd excuse me, I'd better return to work. You lot take care of yourselves. Okay.
They nodded simultaneously, waiting until she walked off with a wave before turning to each other.
What was that?
Amy asked, putting her hands on her hips. Tails smiled wryly.
It's not that I trust Fern, but I'm pretty sure she'd try and stop us from tracking down Solid Cheese. Okay.
Amy said, pursing her lips at the thought. Sonic found himself grateful for Tails' quick thinking. He despised the thought of others trying to stop them from their goal.
Come on, grab a few rings and we'll hit home. I have a feeling we're going to need them for this.
They followed Tails' lead, scooping up rings and placing them into his pouch, particularly the silver ones.
Don't worry about bronze honest.
Tails said, waving him off when Sonic offered to gather some.
I've got a few. That's all we need, really. We're desperate. Someone will lend us one.
Sonic nodded, shoving a pile of bronze ones aside in search of more silver ones.
So, where's this Osis?
Tails hummed and thought as they stood back up, tightening the drawstrings on his bag and placing it into his satchel.
It's on another world. Naturally, we use a silver ring to save our gold ones for emergencies. It'll be a couple hours walk through the desert, but so long as we leave early, it won't get too hot.
That sounded easy enough. The middle of the day would provide scorching heat, so they would wake up extra early to account for that. He'd need to update Knuckles when they got home.
All right, we can start packing tonight.
Tails hummed his assent, Emmy throwing him a thumbs up.
All set on rings. Let's go.
The horses.
Knuckles asked, pausing with his spoon halfway to his mouth. He lowered the spoon.
And you said their name is Size.
Sonic nodded, gesturing for Knuckles to finish eating. Knuckles shot him a petulant scowl, plopping the spoon in his mouth and raising his eyebrows in exaggeration. Sonic found he couldn't plan, only happy that his friend was eating.
I had that name.
Knuckles murmured once the bowl was empty. Sonic snorted.
I agree with you there. Well, make sure they know we hate it. Don't worry.
Knuckles smiled, although it seemed slightly strained.
So we're all going tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Sonic said, watching Knuckles worley.
We'll be waking up bright and early. Make sure you pack plenty of water.
Knuckles huffed a laugh.
Of course. What kind of fool do you take me for?
Sonic rolled his eyes.
Just making sure. And don't forget to get plenty of sleep tonight, okay?
He said, eyeing of the darkness lining Knuckles' eyes. Knuckles rubbed the back of his neck, looking away quickly.
I will do my best. I'll get up earlier to prepare some food for the trip.
Sonic nodded.
That sounds like a great idea. I'm sure the others would appreciate it.
Knuckles' eyes brightened.
Do you really think so?
I know they will. Now come on, go get some rest.
Knuckles sighed heavily, standing up with an exaggerated groan.
Fine. I forgot how much of a mom friend you are.
Sonic sputtered, his face heating up.
What? I am not.
Knuckles raised an eyebrow at the empty bowl of soup in front of him, gesturing to the two new water bottles Sonic had brought him alongside it. Sonic scoffed, scooping up the bowl and standing up, heading to the door. What?
Unappreciative.
He mumbled. Knuckles' soft voice had him pausing, one hand over the door frame. He turned back curiously.
Thanks.
Knuckles said, a shy smile on his face. Sonic only grinned.
Sleep well.
He said, shutting the door behind him softly.